Good rising, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Hey, Pooh, how you doing? And so I am excited today because I have two of my favorite men in the building. We have Professor Devin Robinson and Ebbers. And so let me really quickly give you a rundown for me of what these men mean to me. So as far as Ebbers is concerned, y'all know he's my broker. He is a real estate extraordinaire. He's a multi-millionaire. And he is probably one of the most flyest, arrogant, dopest, but honest and truthful men that I've ever met. And Professor Devin Robinson is the reason why 20% of Black-owned beauty supply businesses exist today in America. And so he's so much more than that, but that is how I like to introduce him. And that's a huge number, 20% of Black-owned beauty supply businesses in America because of you. And so without any further ado, men's, how are you? Like two Black brilliant men. Alex is also licensed in Georgia based on our conversation. Yeah, you see. And so one of the things that I want to just jump into is Black liberation in the form of economic empowerment.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me on your program.
Of course. You belong here.
Yeah. It feels at home when I come to Boston.
You had to think about where you were for a second.
I did because I don't know. We're in April, so this is my first city this month. I'm in 3 cities.
You haven't been nowhere. From the last conversation we had, you were like, I've been in the house.
I've been surfing though. I've been in the house in regards to engaging. I'm not engaging with people, but I do make my rounds to see how the businesses are doing. So I like sneak into a city, walk into the business for like 2 minutes, then I go back to the hotel, then I go back home.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's pretty much how it's been for the past year.
And Alex?
I haven't been on a plane for over a year now. I'm yearning. I want to take the family out. I have a COVID baby, so a lot of people didn't see my.
What's the name? Corona.
You have a lot of Corona, baby.
Corona Edwards. But I'm ready to get back out. I can't wait until this is over. This time been a blessing in some sort. But definitely my condolences to everyone that lost a loved one.
And so again, economic empowerment in the form, like Black liberation in the form of economic empowerment. So you both do this, but in different ways. And so Professor Devin, can you please talk about a little bit about what it is that you do? But I've been talking about you coming to Boston for a week now. And so people like, hold on, what, like Black-owned beauty supply? Like, can you talk a little bit about that and what that looks like for somebody who might be interested in opening their own Black-owned beauty supply store?
Yeah, so I opened my first store in 2005, but it was a business amongst other businesses that I have. Like I'm a business owner. I own 11 businesses. I got I was gonna say tons of employees, but over 30. So modest, I guess. But so business is just what I like and what I do. I'm in multiple things, you know what I'm saying? And but the beauty supply business is just one of those unique ones that I got into that I didn't know really about, that I got in to see like, okay, there's a lot of money in this thing, but there's also a lot of strategy to keep us out. So after I kind of like figured it out and figured out how to make them successful, then I just kept going. So I'm actually here in Boston. We have our 168th store being open in Lowell, is how you say it?
In Lowell? I thought it was Brockton.
No,
it's Lowell.
Lowell. We have one in
you had one in Brockton. You opened one in Brockton.
In Brockton and Dorchester.
Hold on, you have one in Dorchester?
Yeah, this is our third one. So yeah, 168 total. But that's
Give that man
that
flowers.
was that was
Give that man flowers.
yeah. But you know, I like I told you yesterday, I fly below the radar still. Like I don't.
Because I didn't even know the one in Dorchester was you though.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of the one in Dorchester?
You know all these names. You know they're all different names. So I wouldn't remember. I'd have to go in my files and like remember the names.
Can you send that to us so we can send all the black people to that one in Dorchester, the one in Brockton, or the one in Lowell?
Yeah, that's a plan, obviously, to have different names because early on when I was starting, I would go into like these Asian stores and they would have like pictures of me by the register, warning the Koreans like, watch out for this guy. He's not a customer. Like what I'm doing. And I had early again, you know, this is probably 2008 or 2009. This organization, it was called like Korean American Business Association, something like that. But it was a white lady that was representing this company. And they wanted to buy my company, my Beauty Supply Institute, that does the conferences and training and teach people how to run these businesses. They wanted to buy me out. And I laughed that lady off the phone. I said, man, crazy, man. Like that, you can't, you know, so I'm not like favored by a lot of the people in the industry. So the stores that I open, they're not mandated, like they don't have the same, because then they would be able to see like the power coming. And like I told you yesterday, I'm a guy that fly below the radar because I'm acting like a cockroach. Like by the time you see a roach in your house, it's too late. Like you don't have one roach anymore by the time you see it. By the time you see it, you got 10,000, you got a colony. That was a drunken roach.
By the time you put that light on, it's gone.
Yeah, but by the time you even realize like there's a roach, you already have an infestation.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to fly low like that because by the time they really know what's happening, it's too late. We have an infestation of business owners. So you know, we do the funding for them now. We give them the money. I actually got a text this morning talking about 2 people that got approved for their money today. So we're like getting them the funding and just doing a whole bunch of other stuff. But I really don't publicize it. Like you have to. I don't even know how people find me, to be honest, because I don't do a lot
talk about you all day. That's why.
So you're the reason.
I'm the reason.
I don't do.
I want 10%.
I don't be on CNN. I don't do none of the. Look at me. We haven't ever. I haven't ever had a publicist or PR stuff. None of that. It's just like organic. People find me, and then. So I'm, you know, I just try to keep it quiet because, you know, we've seen too many movements get derailed because they prematurely stepped out there and became known too soon. You know what I'm saying? And then they didn't have that strong infrastructure, whether money, members, whatever, that when the attacks came, they can keep it going. You know what I'm saying? By the time you realize that I'm escaping from the plantation, like there's like an army around the plantation and other slaves that know about it, and some white people in the house that have been bought off. So by the time the slave master's like, wait a minute, is Devin trying to escape? Go get him. They're gonna look at him like, no, boss, he good. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't. You know,
that was deep.
Go on, Alex.
No, that was real deep. I mean, I hear him. I hear you. But now you got your army, right?
Yeah,
now you got your
army gotta get bigger. I'm still building the army.
I'm saying, do you got the army around the plantation?
Oh
you
yeah.
Get out and no one can do anything to you. That's what I'm asking.
To a certain degree. Right? I mean, I have a strong team, and I'm buffered very well. You can't just get to me just like that. Yeah. Like I think certain people can get, but you can't just get to me like that.
I think it's time to, and no disrespect to you at all, but I think it's time to let the world know what it is, because you that story. I'm sitting next to this guy right now. Like, I don't know, like, but it's big, right? So imagine if my son heard you.
Yeah.
Imagine what you would do to his mom.
Yeah. I don't hide from that part. I don't hide from that part. But I know the federal government and IRS, they jam people up. Yeah. Even though I don't play. I pay all my tax. I'm like clean.
Yeah.
If there's a witch hunt, you know, you don't know how big they would come. And that's how I look at it. Like I look at people like Malcolm X and these people who are like gone too soon because they made too much noise.
Because they followed their purpose.
Yeah, but I got you.
I know. No,
You can talk about purpose, but
I understand. I just all I'm saying is that your story is like right now you are the rock star. You're not like, you know what I'm saying. You're not. What? No, we don't care about no rapper. We care about this guy.
yeah.
Like,
Oh, rappers can't see me.
you know, that's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like, you're the rock
You
star.
gotta be a
You know what I'm saying?
real deep rapper to say.
You know what I'm saying? So,
You ain't just see me like that. Nah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I said, with no disrespect, but I'm just saying, it's like you are like the influence in the culture, right? And your voice and what you have done. Someone watching it about to go the wrong way might go the right way.
Yeah, appreciate that.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, Alex, I'd like for you to, talk a little bit about what it is that you do and how you are creating economic empowerment.
All right. So I'm a real estate broker. I run Thumbprint Realty. We've been open for about 4 years, going on 5 now. And I've been buying property since the age of 20. And now selling and buying, which I don't like selling property anymore at all. I think it's the dumbest thing I could possibly do is to get rid of real estate.
You sound like me.
And now I'm learning. I'm learning that because just recently I sold a single family, and it just hurt. I put all that sweat and tears in it. I gave it away, and when I say I made some money, but what is money, right? And especially today, the dollar, it doesn't mean the same dollar 10, 20 years ago. My mother bought her home, her 3-family home in Dorchester for $35,000, right? So we will never see that number again, right? All right, so I'm doing the numbers. So now that 3 families worth $1 million, right? So say for instance, I sell that home for $1 million. What is that million gonna mean in the next 20 years? 2 million, 3 million? So it really makes no sense to give away real estate. I think I'm like, we need to hold on real estate. They said point blank. So that's what I do. I purchase homes, I hold on to them now, and I help people purchase and buy homes. So I really believe in allowing someone else to pay for your lifestyle. I don't think I should be paid for what I want in life. I think everything should be a business, point blank, even my marriage, right? Because let's be serious, right? A relationship is called, I say me and my wife are business partners, right? And we build this corporation, our kids are employees, right? And our employees are going to take over this corporation. So we have to make sure that the foundation is strong, right? And we have to have great communication, and we have to have a business plan. Because just like any business, we could break up, we could separate, and we have to make sure that those Netflix is, if we're blockbusters right now, we have to look out for Netflix and make sure we grow with Netflix and that we're not out of the business. So that's how I look at my marriage. That's how I look at business as well. And I constantly now just keep buying businesses, keep buying homes. Right.
So one of my favorite stories. So I don't know if you remember, about like 4 years ago, the first time we spoke, you touched on how you were working on a PhD, or you were working on like some third PhD, and they were like, yeah, so now you can be a consultant for somebody else. And you were like, I didn't go through all this to work for somebody else. You're like, listen, I'm 2 credits away from having a PhD, but I'm walking away. So I be butchering that story all the time. But can you please tell that story?
Yeah, so I was scheduled to graduate with my PhD in international business. And I first of all, let me say, I think my most important degree was my bachelor's. And because that laid a real foundation for me, especially when you're young and you're trying to like really, because I've been entrepreneuring for a long time, but it really crystallized like, okay, I know what I was trying to say, but I didn't know how to say it in business terms, like really talking about like SWOT analysis or break-even analysis or cost benefit. Like, you know what you mean, but you're talking street and you're talking gibberish to like, you're trying to get a contract or commercially space, and they're talking to you, but you're like talking layman. So the bachelor's kind of crystallized that for me. Master's was kind of like, exactly. Terms and communication. The master's kind of was a little advanced, more of the same, right? So I said, man, I'm gonna get the doctorate because Now my expectations for a doctorate in business is pretty high, right? Because I'm like, all right, this thesis statement for masters, all that. Okay, fine. But now when you're talking about a doctorate, it's high level. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back and get it. Even though I was already in business, employees, like I was full-time entrepreneur, I'm doing my thing. But I said, I'm using my business degrees and business knowledge not for necessarily self-gain. My thing is, and I always talk about this, is impact. Like whatever you're doing, you gotta try to maximize the impact that you're having on people, society, and kids. Like it's about impact, right? Because you can have a whole bunch of money and be a glutton for your money, and you're not really making an impact.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to make an impact. And I tell people every day I live my life, it's like I'm working on my Wikipedia page. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make the history books, like textbooks, not the news. Like I need to etch in there, like, oh, this was the guy that turned things around for Black people. We were able to kill them and wrongfully accuse them and jail them. But there was a turning point called the American Black Revolution. And this guy was one of the people. And now we can't do that anymore. Because if you mess with those Black people, you're going to get hemmed up really bad. It's like a Jewish story, right? They got a Holocaust. They got to New York. They became lawyers and commercial real estate people. And it was you can put your finger on when that happened and it shifted. Yeah. And now they got their own communities, own hospitals, police stations. And you can't mess with them too easy. At all. You know, Diddy and Biggie had the rap in All About the Benjamins when it says stack chips like Hebrews. You know, here Hebrew, they black that out almost like the word nigger. Yeah. So you're like, why you can't say Hebrew in the rap? They're like, they're not touching it on these labels on the air. Anyway, I'm drifting. Yeah. Going back to the story, right? You're saying the right thing now. My thing is impact, right? So I'm talking about having impact. So my degree, I was supposed to graduate 2011. And I'm in there and I'm excited because for me, a terminal degree in business should be about impact. I'm trying to find out how to make third world countries, second world countries, or first world countries, or turn around economies, or how do we go in and as a doctors, because I'm thinking like a medical doctor takes something that's sick and make it better, right? And we put our hands on business and economy and make it better. Right. And I'm in the class and these professors talking about you're gonna be the consultant to the CEO. And I'm in class and I'm like, oh, if I'm the consultant to the CEO and I'm getting a PhD, what degrees does the CEO have? Because that's the degree I'm just trying to afford. Because you're still talking to me about having the ear of the CEO. And so what is the real study right now that I'm supposed to get into that's gonna make me the CEO of a Fortune 500 company or Fortune 50 company? And then as I'm really looking at it, they don't have the roadmap for that, because these CEOs and stuff, oftentimes they're like C students, or they came from privileged society, or it came a different way. The college institution is not the one that's birthing the Fortune 50 company. So it just is something more innate, risk taking, creativity, leverage. Just it came from somewhere else that you became this most powerful. Like Jeff Bezos didn't go to Princeton. You know what I'm saying? Wealthy man in the world, and not only does he has all this wealth, he has an impact. He's shifting the way we live and do business. Like Amazon has shifted the way we consume things and read books. And now you're talking about they got vehicles and he's hiring people like he's FedEx driver, like FedEx drivers. That is impact that you can shift culture in society, right? So I'm like, look, if y'all can't give me the game-changing information as a PhD, I can no longer do business with you. I cannot be under your tutelage because you guys really are working for me. Like I'm looking at a professor like, you should really be my employee, right? Like I should not be under you. And I'm 3 classes short. And I remember like every semester I was going in and the professor's like, oh hell, Devin's in this class. And I'm like, oh, that's how y'all be feeling about me? I'm still coming in and we gonna dance. But after a while, it became like, they're really not on that high level that I'm talking about. Like that, like a high level. Like if you were saying, okay, you're gonna be the consultant to the president of the United States. or a world leader, I may have stayed patient and finished those 3 classes. But you're telling me you're going to be a consultant to GE or Procter and Gamble.
I mean,
How do I become Procter and Gamble?
I mean, I don't know what happened just now, but I think I was meant to be here. This morning, I was watching a video that said, get passive income, then make sure you get a passive impact. That literally, and you're talking about passive impact, right? Meaning you do something and you're constantly making an impact. I think school, from elementary to high school, we were taught how to be the best ever, like the best employee. You gotta be the best employee, right? And so here he is, this was about to spend all this money to be number 2, not number 1. When you have the brain, hope, and then you look at the professor like, I could buy your life.
Like, how much you getting paid?
I'm gonna buy you
my payroll.
Exactly.
Could be my consultant.
It's aggravating. One, you know who you are, right? And then you like, okay. Then you break it down and you look at the professor. I'm like, wait a minute, how are you supposed to teach me something when you have a job? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
How can they be on your level when they have to answer to somebody and have a schedule?
Right, and their mentality is suppressed. You know what I'm saying? Because I taught college as well. They don't call me professor because I'm a rapper, right? It's for real, right? I taught college for 8 years. I taught 7 economics courses and multiple business courses. And my plan, like this was a plan before I even went. And the guy that got me in was a friend of mine. He was a politician. He was a dean of the program. So it was kind of like a little thing to get me in. But my plan was to turn those students into entrepreneurs. Because I remember being there, getting my bachelor's, master's, and I'm like, this is not like steering me towards the direction. So I would be there talking about entrepreneurship, and I would get called in to like the dean's office after he left because he did that plug and he was gone like 3 months later, right? So we had a new dean, and they would constantly tell me, Professor Robinson, you just stick to microeconomics. You're talking, and I'm like, but the students love it, right? But they're whispers because the students now go to the other professors' classes in microeconomics or whatever, and other professors are talking, the straight, curriculum, and the students are now getting a little disruptive to them. Say, no, we don't have Professor Robinson class and in labor economics, it doesn't really work like that. You really should do this. And, the labor force participation rate is not being calculated properly when you're a business owner. That's a little different because blah, 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 right? So those professors, I started seeing them come into my classroom to sit and like watch what I'm doing. Students love it. Professors hated it because they were conditioned. They were in the matrix. I took the red pill. I don't know which pill is which. I took the blue pill. I took the pill that like took me into Neo. You know what I'm saying? And they were on the pill that made them Mr. Smiths. So I had a problem.
Some people just have to pave their own road.
Yeah, well, that's true. And we need everybody. I believe we need everybody.
Come on, you. Yeah. You just have to pave your own road, and maybe that was your destiny, to pave my own road, right? Like, of course the kids loved it, right? You showing them the truth. And the truth is they're going to go to school. They have this big dream. They're going to come out and be rich as hell, right? Then something called debt to income hit, right? They can't buy a house. Yeah. They're back at their mama house, right? And now they're like, okay, I'm miserable, right? And now they get a job, $50,000. But they're like, all right, I have to pay school back. I'm really not making no money. So it's more misery, right? More misery, right? And I've never seen a multi-millionaire or a millionaire point blank or 100,000-aire, right, have 4 jobs and have money, right? They have 4 jobs for a reason, right? And I think our society is like, because you work hard, that doesn't mean that you're working hard at the right thing, right? We see a lot of custodians working hard, busting their butt. I'm talking about hours after hours. That doesn't mean that person's going to be wealthy, right? So I think at least in how I grew up, working hard was a thing. But my parents never said, no, you need to work smarter or you need to work like this to get ahead. It was always surviving. I don't want to survive. I don't want to eat the end of the run. The last that last one that nobody wants. I don't want it either. Why do I have to eat that?
Absolutely. And in the class, I used to tell them, because our mainstream financial advisors and stuff, pay yourself first. And paying yourself first is paying yourself 10% and save that. And I'm like, listen, that's a bad plan. So I teach people how to live off of 10% of your income rather than save 10%. By the time I break down when your productivity slows down in your older age and inflation kicks in, that savings that you thought you were putting together for retirement is gone within 12 years. And that's why our seniors often struggle and now got to rely on Social Security, or if they had a good pension and retirement plan, which they don't get the raises, your retirement check does not go up at the rate of inflation. So inflation still consumes your check. Inflation averages 8 to 12% per year. Raises are not that much. Raises are 1% and 3%. So it's going to consume that very quickly, and your lifestyle is going to drop. This is what's happening to older people, right? Explain you live to 10% of your income. If you want to live to a $75,000 lifestyle, you need to be generating $750,000 a year. You don't get credit cards and get things to make it look like your income is more. No, you have to now focus on how do I generate more and live to less? Because when you do that, like Armageddon would almost have to hit in order for your lifestyle to be disrupted. You're talking about 90% of your income would have to be hit before it taps into your lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So I break that stuff down in my books and I talk about that. And one of the lessons I've given in colleges, I explained to them about the education system, right? So this is a 19th century system that was created by Dale Carnegie, right? And the Carnegie helped the government create a system that educated people in specialties, because he had a problem with employees that was coming to work for him and no one was a specialist in anything and people were just kind of all over the place. It wasn't good productivity. So what he did was like, okay, wait a minute. I need people to specialize. Like your job is payroll. Your job is marketing. Your job is sales. Your job is logistics. Your job is all these different things. And then he's like, well, okay, we got to get everybody with a basic level of education. So they got to learn to read, write, have discipline, spell, that kind of stuff. The public school education system is that. Like the basic stuff. But when you hit college, now we talk about discipline. That's your specialty. We need you to go into this specialty because when you come out, you're that person that's going to be doing this the whole life. So what you don't realize is happening is you don't get the understanding of the broader understanding of business. So you're afraid to do entrepreneurship because you went to school for marketing or you went to school for supply, right? Logistics. So you work your way from the mailroom and or HR. And we come out of college with such great confidence. We come out like, hey, I'm telling you, a fresh degree person, and they got that motivational speech from Denzel at commencement. They come out excited, but they don't know that they are deep in one small lane, right? Imagine you're on a highway and you cannot change lanes. So if you have 1 million people with HR degrees and your lane gets backed up in traffic, you're unable to switch lanes. So you just have to sit there. Unless you go back to school to retool so that you can switch the lane. But that's what cripples us because we're trained to be employees, right? And no one's really coming out until Professor Devin Robinson's Urban Business Institute, urbanbusinessinstitute.com, came out to teach you all these different things. Because what I tell people is, this is so interesting, right? Yeah. You can go to college to get a degree in HR. But when people are trying to go to entrepreneurship, they think that they can just go out and do it. We don't think like, so you think people get degrees to work for a company, but when you go out to own a company, you should not have any kind of knowledge. That's why a lot of us fail because we think, we think it's just common sense, but you need to get, whether you read books, go to conferences, whatever, but you got to get knowledge in all the lanes so that when you wake up in the morning and you're the office manager because you're answering the phones and you hang up or someone calls about sales, you can switch lanes. Yeah. You're not stuck in that lane. Degreed people are often stuck in that lane. They can't switch lanes. Traffic is jammed up or they're traveling and then they realize that lane no longer exists, right? They're like, oh, you was a blacksmith. You used to change shoes on horses, but we don't need that anymore now because of Ford's Model T. So your lane has expired. What? So what do I do now? And now you have a problem. You know what I'm saying?
And then that's a lot of mental.
Yeah, and that's what I was doing to the college students. And they were like, that's not what we wanted you to explain, but Dale Carnegie. You were supposed to focus on the Carnegie Company and the railroad and the J.P. Morgans and the oil industry as a case study, not as entrepreneurship. So
you're supposed to be an educational slave master.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Tell them to stay in your lane.
Absolutely. But I like crisscrossing the highway. Trust me, you drive with me, you know what I'm talking about.
The entrepreneur is like, even they might get there a little, they might not get there first, but they're like, yo, I know every lane. That's a pothole. I'm telling you, I see it. That lane has a pothole. Don't do that. I've been there already. I failed at that already, but now I know it's a pothole. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But now you're in that lane, you never know the pothole. You never know what's in the other lane.
Absolutely.
You don't even know your failures. And I think for me, in my life, the biggest appreciation I have is to fail, right? It's just because I know I did something that I never done before and feeling uncomfortable.
You gotta get comfortable with discomfort.
Exactly. How many people haven't felt uncomfortable in a long time? Shame on you. Shame on you. Seriously.
See, when you have one lane and something like the pandemic hits or recession hits or the president takes us to war unjustly and things happen like that, and you don't have another lane to slide into, like I said, traffic jam. You're in trouble. You don't exist anymore.
And then when you get to the end, you notice that the bridge is cut. So everyone's just telling you.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been waiting for all this time?
All this time. Yeah. I don't believe it. Listen, I don't want my $1 million over my lifetime. You know, people are like, they work 30 years for $35,000 a year. That gives them $1 million over their lifetime. I want my $1 million this month. Amen. I used to say I want it this year, but now I'm like, oh, this is not that hard as I thought. I want it this month. But while I'm doing that, like I said, I'm flying below the radar because I know the climate that I'm in with my own people and certain things. And I'm like, I can help you and I'll show you everything I know. But as for me, I'm going to try to fly below the radar as much as possible because I need to continue building my thing. But people come to me, I'll show them everything. I'll show them just how it's laid out, how it's done. The biggest thing is the discipline of you to push through it or to see money and not see it. You know what I'm saying? I talk about that even in my books. Like that was even a thing. Like, you start seeing money because, people count their tax return and all this stuff. And I'm like, that cycle of up and down and living in this this emotional roller coaster of the top of the year, I'm gonna have money. Christmas time, I'm gonna blow money. And then I'm waiting for the top of the year again.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, my lifestyle should stay the same every day, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? It's like stay dry, whether it rains, snow, or something. Like you have a house, you stay dry. Build your house so it doesn't matter what the weather is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Start from the basement and then put the roof on.
Yeah. So I'll show you. But I remember my days of like, and I came from modest means as well. So I understand that transition of like, I'm starting to see like commas, like for real. And I'm like, what do? And I'm like, you don't do anything. You get up and go keep making moves.
So can we take? Do you mind?
Nah, let's go.
Let's go. I gotta understand where you came from and when it happened. Right. So
I came from Earth. Okay. So I was born there, and my parents had a nice Valentine date in February. 9 months later, I came out as a Scorpio in November of 74. That's what happened.
Let's see.
The Virgin Islands, St. Thomas Virgin Islands. Like born, raised on a small island, got my foundation of processing life and dealing with obstacles there. Because now I can move around the world because of that place with confidence. Like I've seen enough that I go any place and don't feel threatened. I walk into meetings, don't feel threatened. I have people calling my office every day to do business with me who who are less than stellar but try to be intimidating, and I deal with them no matter color, shape, age, whatever. All of that came from that undergirth of the Virgin Islands,
crazy.
United States Virgin
My
Islands.
mother's from Smith Bay.
Oh, okay. Really?
Well,
You know about Smith Bay?
I've never been there.
Oh, okay.
I know.
So I need to talk to your moms.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Not far from where I'm.
Yeah. So this is crazy. But so what changed in you? Like, you know what? Something has to change in my life.
Yeah.
And I have to go this way and just believe it.
It was a series of things, actually. So it was like it wasn't just one eye-opening thing, but it was a series of things. Because I'm gonna tell you, like when I was growing up, is no secret. I was jailed 6 times growing up as a teen. I've been in a lot of situations, less than stellar. Some of them don't have statute of limitations, so I won't say them all. No, I'm just kidding. But the regular shootouts, fights, blah blah, all types of stuff. But I was always a straight A student. School was not hard for me, but social life was dysfunctional. So I grew up in that. So I have a lot of the people I hung out with, friends, like we were deep in things, and I watched a lot of my friends go to prison, not jail, like I was jailed. I'm talking about prison. I escaped it, like I'm not a convicted. I'm none of that stuff. But I watched from jail to death to just situations, and over time, I started to think, yo, this can arrive at my doorstep. Because I'm always like 5 minutes. Oh man, he left 5 minutes just before they raided the turf. Oh man, 3 minutes ago, like these dudes came and shot up the place. Like they were just looking for you. But it was so many situations like that happened for me that near miss it. I'm like, I think like I'm in Vegas and I'm ahead. I gotta start switching things up. Well, in '94, my first child was born. That was a major eye opener, but I still didn't quite get it. Maybe like 6, 7 years later, like it started to like kick in for me. And then after a while, I said, you know what? I think I'm wasting my brain cells and knowledge on the wrong things. And I tell people all the time, it did so much that like I've changed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still will handle my business. I just switched lanes. So the rebellious nature I had socially, I now have it entrepreneurially. You know what I'm saying? So the not cowering ever, no matter what the situation is. I tell people, I don't care what it was. I wasn't cowering. I'm gonna deal with the situation, whether I'm victorious or not. I just don't cower. I brought it over here to entrepreneurship and did the same thing. So it's like you can see it if you pay attention to like what I've done in the beauty supply business, right? 168 stores, right? Open. That is an industry that the Koreans bully and beat up our Black women and don't want to give you information or the best prices, all of that stuff. So why did I even challenge them or didn't care to do it? Because it was that book is just me still being able to like not cower.
Can you tell us that process for that first store? I think 1, 2, 3.
I think that's a whole different show. But yeah, I got into it again because of a friend, right? So one of my closest friends, he's doing fair time right now. He had got out of jail, and he was a barber. He was real good, and he would cut hair as a kid, like he would be cutting our hair in the neighborhood. But he got real good. But he was 18, got convicted of some crimes, and he did like 5 years. He's one of my closest friends. We share a fence growing up. And he got out. Now he's a felon. So as a felon, you can't get a barber's license, right? That's one of the things you can't get. So he had to work in shops, renting their booths and stuff. So he came to me one day because now by that time I'm in real estate. Like my money weight is like getting right. And he came to me. He said, "Hey, if I could loan him the money for him to get a shop." And I value friendship. So I was like, I tell you what about I own the shop. You work in it for free. You don't pay me booth rent or anything. You be the manager and you buy it from me when you get your weight up. That process went through very smoothly. I owned the shop for about 3 years. But in that time, it was one day I was sitting in the shop and I watched my stylist because it was a unisex shop. And I would watch these stylists leaving to go get like hair and stuff for like their their customers. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, where they getting this stuff from? So I didn't know anything about beauty supply. I'm like, oh, beauty supply is doing this where you go. So like one of the stylists was telling me, right? I'm like, oh, okay. So this is what's going to happen. I'm going to go buy this stuff in M.O.V.E, put a little section in the shop, and you guys buy it from me only, and there's going to be a new policy. You can't buy it from nowhere else except here, right? So I went shopping, went to a Korean store. The guy, the owner guy, he got aggressive. A golf club. He was like threatening, because I was like shopping. I was like picking up a lot of stuff, and I don't know if he got threatened by like this guy is. I never seen him before. It's my first time in that shop in Southside Atlanta, and I think that he got uncomfortable with like the extra browsing like that. So he grabbed the golf club and threatened me. I looked at this guy like, so now that I know that about my past, now I got that thing happened. You know? So I'm standing in the aisle like, you trying to do me something? Right? The devil here and the angel here. And once the devil's like, yo, take it back. You know what I'm saying? Go back and show this dude what is up, because he's doing this to other people. If he's doing this to you, your other black people here, he's like this devil is like convincing me. So I'm like doing the twitch, like, yo. And the angel's like, you know how much you've built? You're a business person. You have a family. Like, why would you go down for this guy? Blah, blah. And I'm just battling. And then the angel won. I said, I'm gonna let this dude. I'm a rock. So I didn't buy anything. I like, just leave. I kind of chuckled because I'm like, I would have done him some trouble. You know what I'm saying? So, and when I left, the devil was on me saying, man, you a sucker. You never coward. You didn't take it back. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like sitting in the parking lot of my shop now, just sitting out there like, bothered. For real, like a real botheration. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, looking at the shop, there was an empty suite next to my shop, my salon. And I'm like, I'm gonna get that spot. I'm gonna take it back. But I'm gonna take it back in business. I'm gonna take back the beauty supply industry. So I called the landlord and I said, give me that space at the store. And I just went hard because I got money, I got my little business degrees, I know something. Give me that space. I want to put a beauty supply there. They were like, fine, yeah, we already have the relationship with you, blah, blah. I signed a 5-year lease, gave them the money, they gave me the keys, and I walked in the space and I looked around and I said, what the hell? Like, how do you do this? I didn't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, okay, I gotta figure this thing out. And I tried to figure it out, and it's hard. They don't tell you anything. They don't really talk to you. They don't, like, it was hard, right? But let me tell you what happened. So now I'm giving you a little bit more of my business. When I was a senior in high school, I got kicked out of school. Like in February, they kicked me out for about 2 months. Aggravated assault, bunch of stuff, right? So, but I was a straight student. So after pulling some strings and people fighting with the superintendent, it was a whole other long story and a technicality. They had to bring me back. Yeah. So they bring me back with like 6 weeks left to graduate. My grade was so high that all the work that I missed, I still graduated because they would not give me the work that I missed. So I still graduated, right? But I had these felony charges in front of me. I was facing 3 felonies. And the deal was worked out. The judge was like, my lawyer was talking about like, yo, we probably could try to see if you could go to the military or whatever. And the judge was like, well, you have to do no less than 4 years. It was all this stuff. And they gave me a week to decide, right? So in that week, this is me again, young and ignorant. I'm 17. Went back to the hood. All my friends, I'm telling them, you know, because they at home waiting. You don't go to court with me. You know what I'm saying? They're at the house waiting, like, so what happened in court? You know what I'm saying? So I told them, I said, what? You ain't going on military, man. Just face the charges. If you go to jail, we'll break you out. Like, nonsense, right? Kids. And I'm like, you right. That's what I want to do. You right. I got 3 felonies already. You right. So I'm like, yeah. So all week we back to our shenanigans, you know, hood, whatever. And that morning, it was a Monday morning, 8 o'clock. I went in and the judge was like, rise, whatever. And he was mad already because the week before he called 2 cases and both of them was mine. So he was like, rise, and the whole sat down and he called the case again. So he said, like, you want to come out? Like, you. And that's when he started talking, like, you just we're gonna just lock you up. So that week, that Monday, I came in and I stood up. I don't know, we had the devil again, right? And I was like, doing the lean. I'm like, I'll take the military for 4 years. So he was like, good. Bailiff, they escorted me straight to the recruiter and made me like sign up on the spot, the whole nine. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, damn, did you cower again? Like, what's your issue, man? You know what I'm saying? So I had to tell my boss, I'm like, what? You did what? Now, mind you, I'm the only one that graduated. All my friends are dropouts. Nobody. I'm the only one. So I'm like, you're fighting with this like
You're on road again.
Yeah, you're fighting with this like, I can't throw away. Like, I don't want to throw away something. It's this thing that just comes in me like, how far you want to take it? You know what I'm saying? So I wound up in the military. I'm telling you all this for a reason. So I was in the military. It was tough in the beginning. I got issues there too, but I wound up doing a hardship tour in Korea. Didn't want to go there. Hardship, like, I'm trying not to get kicked out of the military as well because I know it's facing. You know what I'm saying? I went to Korea, came back. 10 years later, I was in Korea in 95. I lived there for a year. 10 years later, I'm a Korean distributor that don't want to give me product. So instead of going in like the bully that we often do as black people, we get aggressive. I said, wait a minute, I know this culture. They're about relationships, they're about familiarity. Yeah. Dude, you was in Korea, use that. And I just started talking Korean because I don't know words. So I'm talking, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I lived in Korea. They're like, oh, what were you? And I told them I lived in Daegu. I went to the beach in Busan, and I told all these places. They lit up. Next thing you know, I started getting accounts for my store, and I got an account, exclusive account. And next thing you know, my space started filling up with product. And from there, that was one to overcome. But it took a minute to like get it done. And then I just started figuring out all the other pieces to retailing, inventory management, cash flow, customer service, all this stuff. And when I really got this thing figured out, it just started to blow up. So I had 3 locations within a year and a half, and I just haven't looked back since. But I got other businesses. That's the thing. I got a lending group. I do funding for people.
Like hard money?
Yeah, exactly. Hard money, line of credit, all types of different things. I was in real estate, urban business lending group. So I'm certified. I'm actually a certified broker for business loans. So I could do up to 50 million for businesses and 500 million for real estate. The thing is, I only focus on, I only do this for the open public. I focus it on my customers and clients. Hold
on, I just want to interject really quickly because I made this connection years ago. I just want to interject. Exactly.
She's telling you she need a commission.
Exactly. Yo, this connection was made years ago, but you slept on me, boo. She slept on me.
She's prompting you like, that commission check cut me a piece.
2 points.
So that's what I do. But I got multiple businesses. I still own beauty supply, real estate, publishing companies. I own
publishing companies.
Yeah, books and stuff. Like I got it's 11 companies I have overall. I do merchant processing for a lot of other businesses. I'm a subsidiary of First Data, so I do a lot of that. There's a lot of pieces that's in there that have these businesses.
How you keep that? So your process, you have to be process driven.
Yes, absolutely, big time. I was a network engineer in the military. Okay. So I think through training, my brain became infrastructure. Making things automated, very productivity is big on me, and of course, processes is a big thing. So I can have a lot more employees, but because of the way we're set up, I don't have to have as many. I have multiple locations. So
is it like you and then like vice president?
Yes.
And then
I have like a management. Like they run the show, their departments, their whatever. I really, they have their own meetings, like they're running. You know what I'm saying? I have, every now and then I come in and have a manager's meeting, that kind of stuff. But I just keep my hands on watching to make sure everything's running properly. The thing is, I've become this face and name for beauty supply business so much, but that's not my only business. I think it's because that's a passionate industry that a lot of us are locked out of, and people feel like it's refreshing to see a Black-owned beauty supply or someone able to come in and get these stores open. And the other stuff ain't that sexy. So that's where a lot of my appeal comes from with people. But I'm really just a business person. I just love business and stuff happening.
So you got something that everybody wants in the world, money and time.
I don't know if I have a lot of time. Still working on time, but it's
because your processes, meaning
yeah,
you don't have to go into the office.
Oh no, absolutely not. I mean, and then I stay at the house. The time that I have is less than the average person would have if they were running this size operation.
That's what I'm saying. Cool. Wow. So my fault, guys.
No worries.
I feel like I'm hosting the show.
I'm like, yo, I can keep going. So I don't want to. Like,
well, we definitely went over 16 minutes of time. I do know Professor Robinson does have to get on a plane to go back to Georgia, but you know we licensed in Georgia, so we can take this conversation.
We meet up like what, every couple of years, 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, I fly to go to radar.
We ain't gonna wait 4 years. I'll tell you straight up, we're not gonna wait for the next election to meet with you. When we talk election, we're gonna see Mr. Robinson. Professor Robinson.
Nah, but you know, he held it down when he came for the Black Business event that we had here in Roxbury. He came, he flew up. We had him on a panel with other entrepreneurs, and then he took us upstairs, and you know, we had that private conversation that wasn't. The revolution was not televised. It wasn't live. We did record, but it wasn't something that was posted. If you were there, you got it, and you did something with it. And I definitely did do something with it, and will continue. Like this.
Before my favorite artist, Bill Scott Heron was my favorite artist. Next to Paul.
I got you.
My Marley, you clean your whole house with my Marley.
You do a whole lot with Bob Marley.
Right?
So I'm excited to have had you to meet the way that you did. Like everything happened divine time, and I love the way it happened. And when I posted about it, I couldn't even say like this is the best interview I've ever done. I'm like, this is the best interview I participated in because Alex co-hosted this whole thing. Right. So I just want to thank both of you for your time. I love you both. I appreciate you. Today was an awesome conversation, and I definitely want you to reconnect offline.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick before we end. So my mom's from St. Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
St. Thomas, right? As you know, we have Georgia roots. A lot of the people that grew up in St. Thomas is now in Georgia, and that's how I got to Georgia, right? I got expelled from English.
Mm-hmm.
You got expelled. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like this, and then we talk about passive impact, and then I listened to a video this morning about passive impact, right? And then I meet a man that's amazing to the culture, and I'm just right now I'm blessed. I feel like a higher power just gave me something that I will cherish for a lifetime, even if we don't ever talk again. This moment means a lot to me because like I'm like, yo, son, you have more than me. You have more people to look up to that I'm comfortable with. I'm okay with you being like that, man. You say, no, I don't want to go that route, Daddy. I'm gonna go this route. I'm okay. I'm happy. And we can't. And that as a father, how important that is. And flying under the radar, and I'm happy that you shared your gift with us today, especially with me and being selfish. I'm sorry, but with the world.
Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that. There's a lot more to come. That's why I fly below the radar. Yeah, this thing is that I'm building is.
I know. It's a whole empire.
I'll just let you know. You don't want me to call you once a week. Don't give me a number. Now, what you think about this?
I am Tayla Andre. Waking up with Tayla Andre has absolutely nothing to do with the time of day we link up, but about waking up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. Do not forget that the Urban Business Institute can be found at the urbanbusinessinstitute.com. Everything real estate, everything. It's me, it's Alex, whatever you need, just contact either one of us. You're going to get the information. And right behind me is the Finally Home Step-by-Step Guide for people preparing for first-time home ownership. We talked about this yesterday, Professor Devin. It's like we don't just wake up and buy houses. We actually have to prepare. We get our credit right. We get our savings right. We have to understand this whole situation. And so I thank both of you for your time. I'm super excited to have this conversation. And you going to come back, right? We're going to kidnap you?
Yeah.
And I'll catch a flight. You know, I've been jet setting all year. I'll be in Georgia next week. You
Go down there.
give me permission. All you gotta do is ask.
Yeah. You got my number.
I know, I'm not going nowhere. I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I am Tayla Andre. Everything Tayla Andre, TaylaAndre.com. Mwah.